Okay, guys, Schapelle Corby just got released on parole. She has to serve another 3 years on parole in Bali, right, before she can leave. Now, I'm reading today's paper and I can see Andrew Bolt here, not happy, right, calling her a bogan criminal, you know, they're not heroes and all that shit, right. I can't believe this, right.
Look at him.
The girl was set up, right. Anyone with any brains, right, anyone with any that can read, anyone that wants to follow it can, you know, can go to www.expendable.tv, all right, and there you will find some published reports. Okay, I dare you, go look for yourself. All right, there's all sorts of reports. There are transit reports. There's mutual evasion reports. There's health reports. There's oh, what are they called? I can't even say this one. Powdergate report. There's also the whitewash report, the insider report, the candidate sources report, the political seizure report, the FOI abuse report, and even the crime report. Now, those reports talk the truth, right? All the facts are there, right? Facts that shame us as a nation. But before I go through a couple of the pointers, let me just talk about a couple of things. This poor girl, right, was put in jail, right, not because she imported fucking marijuana, right? It was politics. Okay, the Indonesian government makes political points every time it hurts her. And it's done that from day dot, right? They kick her like a footy. And they do that to send messages, right? And, of course, to score political capital. This trial, this political, this racist sentence, these remissions she never got when everyone else got them, the discriminatory treatment she received in jail, right? She was used shamelessly for PR. She was punished for refusing to cooperate. And guess what? When she went for parole, what would they do? They would withdraw parole for foreigners as soon as she applies. And she nearly didn't get released because she wouldn't, you know, sell her soul with a false confession. Good on her, right? Good on her. She was treated like a political punching bag. Actually, the ultimate political prisoner. She was a hostage. All right, so what's our government done about it? You know? What has the Australian government done? One of its citizens is taken hostage by our government. Right? Does it do what it takes to get the Australian out, the citizen out? Does it do what it takes? Does it do anything to show that it actually means something to be Australian? The answer is no. Actually, it does the opposite. It allows the media to scorn and smear her with lies. Read Andrew Bolt's fucking shit this morning. What an asshole. Seriously, what an asshole. Right? Blaming her because a couple of her brothers have got little minor possession charges, right? My God. It even endorsed the trial which should have been condemned at the United Nations as an outrage. It even supported burning of the evidence. It excused the sentence, and it turned a blind eye to every horrific abuse that happened to the poor girl. Even, and this part really annoys me, even when she was diagnosed as mentally ill, incompetent, by this country's most prominent psychiatrist, guess what? It actually didn't make the report, okay? It didn't make it to the court. So what sort of government's this? What sort of country is this? Why? Why would they do that to one of their people?
Avoiding this media. Are you fucking kidding me?
When it comes to it, what do we find? When we look and read these reports, we find that shit. Vital evidence was withheld from her. Evidence which proved the bag was tampered with all along.
A lot.
Right?
But baby, you ain't seen nothing yet.
It was the making of political decisions at the expense of Schapelle.
No, honey, don't you dare.
She had politicians in 2 countries battling against her, and she still does. This is our government. This is Australia, hiding behind the most disgusting of media smear campaigns. Poor girl's been betrayed, and as a consequence, so's every other Australian. But that fucking Australian government. It's time, Australia. It's time you people call them to account. Alright, she's done 9 years for nothing. It's bullshit. Okay, so if you don't want to go and read all this, right, if you don't believe me, right, it's all published. All these reports are published. I dare you to go and look, but I know you won't. So I'm going to tell you a couple of facts. I've got the reports here. In the transit report, we find that her boogie board bag was the only one not scanned at Sydney Airport. It was diverted past the scanner by the guilty people, the baggage handling staff. And the Customs Minister Ellison withheld that information, didn't he? Eh? Even when Schapelle Corby's lawyer directly asked about scanning. Also, this info was hidden from Parliament. Even when direct questions were asked, right, it was withheld from the Bali Court. Now, Johnny Howard, our Prime Minister at the time, the little fucking nuthead, right, and the head of the Sydney Airport, Max Moore Wilton, they also kept quiet about it, didn't they? Even though they both knew. It's in the transit report, they knew. The Australian Federal Police never investigated the reason for the missing screening data, and the Commissioner, Kilty, English fuck, he also knew, never commented, did he? No. We find in the transit report that her bags were 5 kilos overweight on the Qantas system. But her bags had been underweight when she checked them in, because she didn't incur the 175 excess baggage charge. And in a supplementary report, it says here, neither Schapelle nor the Bali Court were ever provided with this critical information. Now, in the transit report, this is what it's all about. 2 weeks before the verdict, that Commissioner Kilty told the media that there was no evidence of airport drug syndicates using innocent passengers, when this was clearly, utterly, demonstrably fucking false. The AFP, they had a report for months and withheld it, right, along with all other fucking evidence, right, to support her, you know, just to hide the fact that this has been a systematic and long-term nature problem, right, of a syndication at Sydney and or other Australian airports. Now, in the mutual evasion report, we find that AFP and DEFAT, they demonstrably evaded the forensic and DNA tests which Schapelle begged for. All right? She also, poor thing, mate. The AFP also told Parliament that they couldn't perform marijuana pollen tests when they could, and indeed they originally offered to perform them for the Indonesian police. And when a forensic expert who volunteered to perform them, right, said, "Can I do this?" They said, "No, thanks. We don't need your help." So, no pollen tests. In the mutual evasion report, we find that there's a treaty called the MACMA Treaty, which means a sample of the drug, right, which a person has been, you know, convicted for, needs to be kept, right, for later on, okay? And Schapelle Corby begged them, right? But they didn't. In the transit report also, there's contradictory stories about the missing closed-circuit television footage which Schapelle Corby pleaded for. And even Prime Minister Downer, the foreign minister Downer, you know, the guy that used to wear women's ladies' stockings. Remember that guy? And Prime Minister Howard, they both publicly endorsed the Bali trial, even though they were well aware, right, of all the legal and human rights abuses throughout the whole trial. And Ellison, that prick, publicly endorsed the burning of the evidence, again, when Schapelle pleaded for it to be preserved. The health report says DFAT have, by de facto, endorsed and suppressed the ongoing documented abuses of a mentally ill Australian citizen for 8 years now. Hey? You scumbags. Oh dear. When Schapelle Corby got a few book royalties while she was still under legal process in Indonesia, the government seized those royalties, knowing that this would signal guilt to Jakarta, and by illegally extending its jurisdiction outside Australia and holding secret trials at which Schapelle wasn't even present, it brought the whole Australian judiciary into disrepute. What the fuck, man? So, in the political seizure report, we find that the government denied her of funds for medicine and another appeal, right? The government didn't support her. They wouldn't even pay for her medicine, man. Even though there was an Australian psychiatrist that found her mentally ill, right? And even though they're well aware of the nature of the Bali trial and all the fucking evidence that was willfully withheld, they still, denied her funds for medicine and for another appeal. Great, aren't they? There was also secret recordings of 2 known criminals discussing the collection of marijuana from Sydney Airport on the day that Schapelle flew to Bali, and that's in the candidate source report, and the AFP suppressed that too. In a Quongo report, we find that the Commonwealth Ombudsman supported the government to every complaint ever lodged relating to Schapelle Corby. All right? How's that? Also, in the media reports, we found serious media broadcasting media abuses, including criminal matters, which were submitted to the government in 2011. They were excluded from the media inquiry. Compelling evidence of political interference with respect to the ABC and evidential proof of subsequent editorial and reporting abuses continued to be ignored. And also, we find in the crime report that the current Attorney General has refused to accept the formal crime report, which documents all the serious breaches of the law by politicians and the Australian Federal Police. Anyway, that's just a few things in the reports. If you want to, I'll tell you one more time. They're all published on the website www.expendable, EXPEND, ABLE, one word, .tv. It's all there. Okay? I dare you to go have a look at it. Until you do, don't fucking say a word. Don't pretend you know. Because all you're doing is that you're just helping the corrupt system continue to do this shit. We need to hold them into account. When is this government going to bloody, when are we going to hold them to account? What happens when the next Australian cops are set up like that? Not good enough. Tony T out. Help me, Australia.